Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Relief Podcast. My esteemed guest is a friend and Philly legend, Jay Doran. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's nice to see you 2 times within a week. And, a little bit more about Jay. I mean, there's a lot of layers here to this onion here, but he first became notable to me through Facebook and through his groundbreaking book, 30 Days of Thought, which to me, again, I completed some of those exercises, but it does help a lot of people bring clarity, resilience, and authenticity. So that's a lot of flavor that, evolved into core values, which some people live as their standard and their kind of heartbeat, and others kind of put it on the wall because it looks good. Jay, we're going to cover some topics today, but I want you to start thinking about where superintelligence meets Nietzsche's Übermensch.
Wow.
Because I want us to try to raise consciousness today and rehumanize business. Because I think as much as we care about bottom lines and quarterly profits, people do matter, right? So can you speak to when you started, not just your Culture Matters podcast, but just, delivering higher standards to companies and clients? What kind of resistance would you face with people, and how would you overcome that resistance?
There was some type of experiment done on the moon, something to this effect, where they were trying to grow like the actual plants, and the environment was insulated and it was perfect and had all the ingredients, but the plants kept dying. And the issue was there was no wind, there was no resistance. And Nietzsche said the tree that grows the heavens roots go all the way down to hell, something to that effect. The roots go all the way down into hell. There's a value in resistance. And so if we're talking about bringing a new idea, a new product, a new service, even if it's not a new idea, a new product, a new service, but I'm new to my potential customers, or I'm a new source to the market, of course there will be resistance, but maybe there should be resistance. Maybe the fact that there's resistance, the likelihood that there's resistance or some friction is what actually makes the pursuit meaningful. In the absence of the resistance, where's the triumph? Where's the feelings of, where's the plan? Where's the necessity of a plan? Where's the call to a goal? What value is there in the complementarity of a team of people that each have different but complementary skill sets, or had different personalities that complement one another in their differences, different walks of life or cultures? What value is that Lollapalooza or compounding of different disparate peoples from different places to come together to work on a team to achieve an outcome in the absence of resistance? Absent resistance, absent struggle, it's like playing one of those video games on easy mode. You ever do it's boring very quickly. I think of the Grand Theft Auto cheat codes, and you have the cheat codes, and it's fun for how long? 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but not. One of those Grand Theft Auto games, I think I spent 60 or 70 hours on this, going through one of those games to completion. With the cheat code, you're bored in a few minutes and then you're on to the next thing. So if you're asking about what I got from that was, I'm thinking resistance, struggle, and it's a call to character. It's a test of our convictions, our commitments. Isn't that what life's about? At a deep level. Now, at the same time, maybe I just want everything to work out in the moment, because who the hell wants to sign up for that? Maybe that's a bit more of an abstract answer, and I could be a bit more practical on some things. Hey, try this sales objection, tell this story, get enough calories, go to bed on time, and wake up early.
Oh, okay.
Have you tried an ice bath?
Oh, I do that. I'm doing more cold showers now, so that has definitely helped me wake up more. But I I wanted to kind of ask you, there's a lot of ancient Greek concepts, single words that meant a lot, right? Whether it be eudaimonia, areti, sophrosini, logos, pedia, ataraxia, philotimo, kalon. Any of those words stand out of just like a true arrow for all of us to kind of live by?
I've never heard of any of them. What are they?
All right, so
what do they mean?
I'll go one by one. So,
Yeah.
eudaimonia means like living the good life, right? It's central in Aristotle.
Oh, is that eudaimonia in English?
Well, again,
Okay.
I'm speaking as a Greek, but so
That one I have heard of.
okay,
Eudaimonia.
right. So meaning, like you said, seeking short-term pleasure, but maybe something more satisfying. A drive-through experience is food, but it's bad fuel. So when we live with the virtue of being in our full purpose, there's more meaning and fulfillment in life, or at least that's the theory. And, then the other kind of concept that I think stands out for you is not just of service, but holding high standards, out of excellence, virtue, right? Not just a marketing slogan, right? Not just a membership club, but like a way of life.
Arete, that was the Stoic concept, arete.
Oh, yeah.
There's a group that was formed, this self-help group was formed around this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then
Like the Andy Frisellas and Ed Miletts, they came together.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's not, nobody pays Greece to culturally appropriate anything. You just kind of copy and paste and make it your own. Make it your own, So, I was the first Greek in that group, and, it did mean something for some time, and valuable lessons, many good friendships, and you widen your network, right? I mean, one thing that I always was told growing up was be good, right? So, when we talk about standards and values and culture and bringing people from different belief structures together towards a common goal, how do we more or less set aside differences that would sometimes bring us to battle so that we can...
What I've experienced myself is that I set the tone for that. I think there's a tremendous power in a smile, a pat on the back, a hug, an affirmation, looking the other way, hey, it's okay. Like Schopenhauer talked about how compassion is the root of morality. I don't know if he was right on that, but there is something to the fact of, if I'm in a position of authority and influence, my compassion can open up a potential for those below to be lifted up if they're willing to outstretch their hand. I've always looked at it, in that sense that, how can we lower shame and increase reinvention or inspiration? Because there's a great danger that comes in group dynamics. There's danger. There's dueling. There's wrestling. There's pride that can be pierced and shame and created. Right? There's great danger. There's potentially I won't get invited back to my friend's house because of how we played that video game. I didn't like losing, so I had to learn the hard way. If we're talking about you having different people of walks of life coming together, I think the leader, here's something can be practical for our business persons that are listening to this. Each of us are setting the tone of our life in how we show up. Each of us are setting the tone. We're not always in that position of ultimate authority where our actions are going to be mirrored and modeled and matched, even if the group isn't even recognizing that they're mirroring and modeling and matching it. But we do have that power as individuals that we set the tone in our life, even if it's, in the next room that we inhabit. So if I'm in a position of leadership, and I want to get people together that are different, I need to be very aware of simple things, how I smile, how I shake hands, how I look people in the eye, how I, as in a Petersonian sense, stand up straight with my shoulders back, Dr. Peterson, how I make connections and honor people with that introduction, like, Sally, meet Bob, and here's why, Sally, that Bob is who Bob is, as far as I understand it, and why you should connect. And maybe we could conceptualize that as a spirit of love or a spirit of rejuvenation, a spirit of camaraderie. the spirit of, I think of like rejuvenation, redemption in spirit, right? Inspired. It's like I'm looking up at someone's potential, who they could be. Maybe even it's not who they are in that moment. Well, it's going to come down to how other people can work and see value in them to solve X or Y for others, to lift them out of whatever moment they're in, whatever transient moment they're in. So I think, seeing the good in people, seeing the potential in people, and putting them in a position to succeed. Right? There's a lot of responsibility in that. It's kind of scary to think about it, actually, and there's danger because one could be wrong in seeing the good in someone, seeing the good in them. Is there good in them, or is there something in me that's not yet integrated that I'm projecting on someone that hasn't even earned it? Then there's that side of the conversation. We can go there too. Discernment and boundaries and the importance of walls around the garden, the importance of walls, relationships, and how important time, right? The temporal nature of relationships. Who do I know, and how do I know that I know them, and how long do I know them, and who have they been in action? Like, how have they shown up? I can go a bunch of different ways with that.
There's a formula to
simple
everything.
Things.
There's a formula to everything, and to add to, I think, like, let's speak to like the brilliance of the event that you put together last week, right? You curate that room through connections, through people who are involved in your network, who you know through years. And to quote one of your early episodes, you add this twinkle to people, right? You want to brighten up their starlight, right? Maybe they don't even see themselves as stars. But then you literally, like, you went up to me, who's somewhat shy, and then say, hey, talk to John, talk to Zach. Hey, you all have podcasts. Have a nice day. And then you step back and you let the magic happen.
Me too.
So I just wanted to take...
Did magic actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, we exchange information. That there's somebody, John could be somebody that be on a future episode, or maybe someone that I contact for sales coaching, right, on improving the sales process, right? So seeing that brilliance in you to say, hey, you know what, maybe not everyone's for everyone, and trying to force like two competing forces together may not always work, but you're like, hey, these are aligned energies, and you need to at least try to talk to each other. So like, no attachment to the outcome, right? But the effort is there. And I think that's a lot to be said, because now, as much as we're online, we're lacking connection, right? Like as I mentioned once about, people like Dr. Peterson. I mean, I think he'd welcome a hug more than a big check, right?
Well, that's why when I've seen him, I've always asked him for a hug, but that was more for me.
Well, I mean, look, you're a smart student. I mean, and it's not just the student, but the action taker behind it, right? And since not just a big fan, but just, I feel like you personify his lessons. Like you don't just quote them and say, okay, here they are. I likely if there's like cameras in your room, it's a clean room, right? Well, more or less. But again, so what I want to ask you is
regularly.
Well, okay, we're always works in progress. Right. I think if we're static, we're dead, right? And there's nothing to improve upon. But like what type of?
Well, I definitely make my bed every morning. You'd be proud of me for that.
Yeah,
and that's a conscious effort to put something in order, and that's not the chaos. That's not how that's been an intentional act to have order and discipline and clarity, to be intentional. One of our core values, the Culture Matters, is focus. And I do want to say, and I think preparation and focus have a relationship, a necessary, helpful, mutually beneficial relationship, a complementary relationship. But it is something to say that Culture Matters was founded in 2014. I came across Dr. Peterson's amazing work in 2017 into 2018. There were common. I mean, we're people have similar ideas. Right now, there are people that they don't have access to water and food, and they have they have a deeper understanding of anything myself, and even I'm sure a Dr. Peterson or a Slavoj Žižek or a Robert Sapolsky or whatever brilliant teacher in the world that is being, in fact, being, what the attention is being pointed on them. Someone somewhere out there without a book yet having been read probably understands what we're trying to get at such a deeper level. And on that note, I was just listening to a book this morning called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I haven't read it in years, but I was listening to it again. And he talked about a scenario as a contrast between Christopher Langan and Robert Oppenheimer, from the one that was the leader of the bomb.
The Manhattan Project, yeah.
Yeah, the Manhattan Project. And he was doing a contrast of their lives. Both super geniuses, but one was a part of the Manhattan Project. And the contrast of his life, he was a guy that literally tried to kill one of his teachers and got let off the hook. And then you have Christopher Langdon over here, whose mom stopped paying the college tuition, and he got kicked out of the college scholarship, whatever she had to pay. She was late, and he essentially lost his scholarship and left college. So it's like the tale of, That being said, yes, I'm a big student of a lot of these people.
But what I do love is, like, you have this, like, a childlike wonder, but like a ninja assassin sword too. Because you cut pretty hard with your questions, right? And I think people aren't, they're not ready to take them, because most people ask superficial surface questions that get like softball answers. Do you feel like, and then I want to go back to, because this theme of focus, I'm going to start quoting some of your episodes, episode 975. You talk about attention deficit. And right now, we're in a shiny object world, right? And there's always some new thing, a new tool. Drop your system and pick up this. Drop this thing and pick up that new thing. And it might be a 1% difference, but it could cost you a lot. So, like, how would you encourage people to kind of reflect on their perceptions and actions?
I probably should have, how to encourage people how to reflect on their what and their actions?
Perceptions and actions.
Precision. Well, first, I think I should have said this 15 minutes ago. I'm the founder of Culture Matters, because we do live within a certain construct. If people if they're listening in the Western society, you pay attention. Or what does that person do? How are they relative to me? What false idol am I admiring? So I started a company called Culture Matters. We're a business consulting advisory firm, companies between 10 million in sales and 300 million in sales, private companies predominantly. I wrote my first book when I was 27, 30 Days of Thought. It's a meditation on reading to think, writing to develop, listening to hear what is unsaid, and speaking to let go. So the reader starts this process, and they actually write their book from reading and writing and sharing their thoughts online. That's what 30 Days of Thought is. I'm a speaker, an advisor to founders and CEOs, the C-suite, executive coach, and we have a firm that's grown from that with actual brilliant, smarter than me people in different domains that help solve everyday problems for businesses. Ultimately, that's what leads to continued shareholder value, is to innovate and recreate and restructure and attract talent and grow the company and make profit and take that money and put it back in the business, or buy your Lamborghini or feed your kids or whatever. So from a capital standpoint, I'm an entrepreneur, consultant, advisor, and every day I'm stewarding this business and working with our clients and growing with them, sometimes gathering friends and people I care about together. And also, we just released episode 1003 of the Culture Matters podcast today, which I'm proud of. Demetri will be on tomorrow at 7 a.m. after my 6 a.m. podcast. So how to encourage people's looking to just look at perception and action. I think some of it is, how often would I, and what season would I be in, where I would actually sit in silence? There were years that went by that I did not take a day off. And for me, a day off is sitting and reading and pursuing my curiosities passionately. Einstein, someone I admire, he said, I have no talents. I'm just passionately curious. no special talents. I'm just passionately curious. For years, I didn't take any days off, and I was actually proud of it because I was so afraid to do it. And then I took a day off, and by the second week of that, I had visions and dreams and realizations, and I recognized how wrong I'd been and how right everyone that actually loves and cares about me that was telling me to do this, that I wasn't listening to because of my own pride. How valuable that was, that time off. But I was afraid. I was afraid to do what I've seen others that I attributed, things that I don't like in them, that I was afraid to model those things in myself, right? So one positive thing, like, oh, I don't want to do that, let me do this, ends up becoming, the virtue becomes a vice taken too far. So like something that one can do to help with their distinguishing perceptions and actions, I think, would be to take time away from whatever it is, that could be their labor of love, it could be their labor of necessity, work or pleasure. Take time and say no with an exclamation mark. Take time. Writing has been a deeply personal, important component of my maturation, my evolution. I just wrote something today, and I blathered. That's a word. I cried, and I molted, and I reflected. And it's like mentors have been a huge. What is a mentor? I think it's someone that, at least in my case, these are individuals that I have reached up to. I've reached up to. There's qualities in them that I admire. There's fruit that I admire. There's a bond I admire, and I reach up and I reach out often. And over years, they've brought me closer, and I've become a better student of their lips, right? Hey, this is where you're effing this up, and here's where you're strong, and I have to be a willing participant to hear. So I have created some amazing mentor-mentee relationships because of my grit and determination to create that relationship where I could learn from someone that is losing money and time, investing, sharing space with me. There's not much they can gain other than legacy in what I do with their words. I honor them with how I live my life, reflecting back their wisdom. And I'm talking, in my view, people that are amazing, right? In many respects. It's not just one, economic or familial or intellectual or whatever. But there's a relationship there that now has meaning. And so mentorship has helped to, I think, tactically answer your question. And then I could, go on and, there's hiring this maybe expert at this one domain. If I understand of course, then we have like interpersonal relationships. I can't get very far without stumbling over my words and my contradictions with my love interest wife. Can't get very far with many contradictions and hypocrisies there. Perceptions and actions. That's a deep one. I would challenge people to go to, I don't know what episode it is, but Dr. Ian McGilchrist man, you would love this episode on the Culminates podcast, Demetri. He's a contemporary Peterson. He goes into this. I haven't finished his book here, but this is one book, and I've been working on it for a while. It's one book. And it's a profound book if you're watching the video. It's called The Matter with Things. And it's like our brains, our delusions, and the making of the Western world, I think. Yeah, and he has a whole chapter on perception, and I would send right to the source. I think it's in volume 1, if I remember correctly. He has a whole chapter on perception. Chapter 3, perception. It goes attention, perception, judgment, apprehension, emotional and social intelligence, cognitive intelligence, creativity. So yeah, perception. I won't even try to explain what this book means. Maybe a whole podcast.
There's a lot of tests. I mean, the book on my desk now, I don't know if you read this one yet, but biocentrism.
No, I'll have to buy. Oh, Robert Lanza, I'll have to buy it. I love it.
Yeah, so there's a powerful quote from Aristotle in that book. To be conscious that we are perceiving is to be conscious of our own existence.
Wow.
So I feel
What makes
like
you ask about this question?
well, because I feel like what we say sometimes comes from our worldview. But when I see how you perceive things, I feel like you are part like scientist, part philosopher, and part engineer, in that you break down the elements of someone's presentation, right? Because you live in this triangle or trinity of reading, writing, and speaking, right? That's what you encourage all of us to pursue so that we can be at our best. And a lot of times when someone is speaking or teaching, it appears like they've had it all figured out, but you're very open in your vulnerability that you're still figuring it out, and that mistakes come out constantly. But the effort is what's always persistent and consistent.
Yeah, I'm just I yeah, it's like I'm dying every moment. Well, parts of me are shedding as as we're having a conversation. To be, you know, I like to explore, right? Exploring, maybe it's not even a like. It's just a part of what I am is an exploration. And I think, if we're going to talk about contextually, like how valuable, it's like maybe at some point in my journey, I associated my value with how valuable I was relative to my counterpart. And something that came naturally and then compounded over time was my ability to problem solve, to help solve human puzzles, people. That's the psychology and the psychological, the philosophical, the autobiographical, and that over time that became more of like the social and the communal and the anthropomorphic, like the group, and then it just kept going. And it's like it's my own pursuit of self and identity and self understanding and self recognition that drives this insatiable curiosity to know and to come closer to people. I'm just thinking, out loud here. But it seems to be a helpful personality makeup slash behavioral obsessive nature for the trade that I'm in, which consultant, advisor, helper of those in positions of, it's an interesting paradox of people that run businesses. Is like they know it all and know nothing. They're in positions of being perceived as knowing it all and having to know and burden it all while simultaneously in the dark. Like they need a lighthouse to see the shore. The entrepreneur needs a lighthouse to see the shore. At the same time, it can't be too bright because then there's no interest in even going and traveling anywhere. But if it's off, they might not make it. And so it's like, okay, am I a lighthouse? Yeah, it seems to be.
I mean, I feel like in a way you're like also part like on an odyssey. Almost kind of navigating the jungle books of life, like a modern day Rudyard Kipling, and
Oh, I like him.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of my favorite movies growing up was the Jungle Book, right? So like who would be your I guess who would be your Bagheera and who would be your Baloo?
See, I don't know this story on the level that you do. What's Bagheera's role and what's Baloo's role, and how do they relate to one another?
Okay, so I look at a lot of dualities here, right? I look at it sometimes as a potential, like a romantic partner, a friend, or somebody like a true ally, right? So Baloo is all about, all you need is the basic necessities, right? Food, shelter, clothing, and the jungle will provide, and we can just sing and dance all day, and it's all good. Right? Where Bagheera is the Black Panther. He teaches him discernment. He teaches him to be careful and not be reckless. Where Baloo's like, I got you. As long as I'm around, you're good. Where Bagheera knows he ain't going to be around forever. So let me teach you some lessons so you can survive in the wild. And that,
But
yeah, go ahead.
No, but wait, Baloo, when you said basic necessities, what do you mean?
So he sings this song, right? It goes, just go for the bare necessities, the basic bare necessities. Don't worry about your worries and your strife. Meaning cast them all away. They don't exist because you're out here in the jungle and everything you need is provided for. It's there to be had.
What effect does that song and that relationship have on who's the main protagonist?
It's Mowgli. So it's a
Mowgli.
It's an orphan child that's been left as a baby out in the wild. So Bagheera finds this so before he gets killed by the tiger, because the tiger is Shere Khan, right? And we all meet those manipulative characters out of Robert Greene's Darkest Nightmares.
Yeah, I've given too many. I've helped some, and I've tried to save others.
Yeah, can they be
They litter my story. They litter my autobiography. And I think I already could think of one of my uncles as Baloo, and another one is Bagheera.
Oh yeah,
because I was raised by a village. Yeah.
Oh, it does, and I think so. Like this tiger, Shere Khan is like the ultimate vile character. He's just instantly hateful. He doesn't have discernment. He says man bad, right, and but then there's the curious person, the person who's so curious that he's trying to become God, and that's the orangutan, King Louie. So they have the most wonderful song, the best song and dance ever, almost the level of King Herod, right, at that feast, where he, where he was so happy. I don't know if you remember that biblical story, but he was so happy with this exotic woman that was dancing. He says, I will give you anything you want, up to half my kingdom. So she goes to her mom and says, what do I get? What do I ask for? I can't ask for anything. Do I ask for a castle? Do I ask for fields? Do I ask for gold? He says, no, ask for the head of John the Baptist on the platter. So meaning sacrifice something. And so the king could have said, no, I ain't going to do that. That's not honorable. But he wanted to honor his promise, which at some point, even as a king, you should be like, no, I can't follow that. Even though I promised you the world, I didn't promise you death. So when you look at, again, back to the simple Disney story, before Disney went off the rails and wasn't really family friendly anymore, this King Louie was whining and dining Mowgli to get one secret. He thought that man knew how to make fire, that this little boy could somehow just rub rocks together or do something and make fire, and it wasn't within him. But at the end of the movie, when Shere Khan is chasing him, right, when he's attacked Baloo, when he almost killed him and Shere Khan can't get him, and he has to literally face the most vile character as a small little boy. Lightning strikes. It hits a branch. It's literally coming from the creator on down. That branch catches fire. In a moment of just bravery and courage, he ties that flaming branch to Shere Khan's tail. And he says, your tail's on fire. He says, no, it's not. He says, look behind you. The fear of God got into him, and he runs away. So man won. Not by creating fire, but sometimes just by lucky coincidence, divine alignment. I don't know.
Well, he had courage, but he also told the truth in the face of the lie. Like, isn't Shere Khan embodying a lie in the sense that it's cut off from potential? You said he only sees Mowgli as what he perceives, which isn't fully the whole story. His perception is a reflection of his own biography only. And each of our autobiographies is a component of reality. It's interlaced or interwoven in whatever is true, but it's more of like a paddle, two paddles hitting the ping pong back and forth. And the Shere Khan only sees Mowgli for a projection of what he is embodied of, was like this closed, and like Kierkegaard, right? Like, once you label me, you negate me. The closed society in a Popper, Karl Popper. I've never finished this book, but I actually was reading about it the other day. I got to finish this book. It's one of the best arguments against tyranny. It's Karl Popper's Open Society and Its Enemies. Karl Popper was the philosopher of science of the 20th century, very close with Einstein, John Eccles, and man, anyway, that reminds me of Karl Popper. Yeah, it's a profound book. So the boy, right, Mowgli, it's an interesting thing to think about. The orphan. This is an individual that is simultaneously nothing and everything, yet something at the same time, right? There's a
duality.
Words for it. How would you unpack that, right?
I reconcile this as by being rejected and thrown away, he's cast among the wolves and comes back a leader. And at the end of the movie, he goes to the water and he's romanced by the most manipulative creature there is, a woman, a young woman who goes down to fetch the water for her family. And as she's singing her beautiful, again, it's not even a siren song, it's just a song of love. That one day she'll have family, she'll have children, and somebody else will go down and fetch the water. She drops her vessel. Little Mowgli goes over there, and Baloo's like, no, 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 don't go near women. They're nothing but trouble. Meaning, so he's projecting his own hurt, his own broken relationships and love. Where Bagheera says, no, this is the natural order of things. We taught you well. You survived in the wild. Now go be with that woman, right? Now again, it's almost like an arranged marriage, but it just meant to be. But he leaves strong. He's not some little feeble kid that just dances around and hopes that, food will be provided. He made his bones about it, and now you got this courage, almost like he's ensnared into being a full man. But I feel like a lot of us aren't given that jungle experience. We have the urban jungle, we have the wild, but we're not really, we're forged in our mental battles, but I don't think we're always forged out in the field.
I think Philip II of Macedon said to Alexander, son, kings are not made. Son, kings are not born. They're made through pain and suffering. A king needs to learn how to hurt those that he loves, something like that. But they're made with pain and suffering. Now, Alexander, before he was great, was just Alexander, the son of King Philip II of Macedon, a man that unified disparate tribes and trained them, and over many years of conquest, developed technology and did a lot of heavy lifting of that company so that his son could take it over reactively after his quick and unassuming or surprising demise from some random resentful soldier. King Philip II of Macedon was killed randomly by some soldier. His throne is at odds, and now his half-breed son, who was just Alexander, just some generational half-breed heir, has now an opportunity to take over his father's army, who prior to King Philip's death, they didn't even have a relationship, really. He had tried to kill his son at a party or something because there was a disagreement and words were shared. And I think King Philip II married a woman that Alexander liked. Like, there's just low resolution, and people were plotting to replace him because he was a half-breed. He wasn't from full Macedonia. I don't think it was Macedonia then, but he wasn't full his whole culture. But he was somebody that, his father had the foresight to hire Aristotle to teach him when he was a kid. So there's some interesting connections with these Mowgli and I wrote it down. Baloo and Bagheera. These are two different mentor or guides.
Yeah.
Aristotle to Alexander. He wasn't great. He was just Alexander. There's the resistance. Alexander, right? He has this amazing, or this overarching father. There's a narrative implicit in that. This I want, that would be innate pull of like, I want and beyond. There's an admiration, there's an elevation, there's a strong example. But there's enough resistance, rejection, cultural disintermediation. You're a half-blood. You're not one of us. You're on the outside. There's a resistance. I'm not good enough. I'll show you. I have the gifts. I have the determination. Now you have the bow, right? You have the first thing you asked on the show, resistance. The bow needs to be pulled back, Demetri. We need the resistance. We need the resistance. We need the bow to be pulled back as far as possible. Alexander King is not made. I'm sorry, I always say that. King is not born. They're made through pain and suffering. We need the resistance to pull the bow back. How far that bow goes back is reflected in the resistance and the pain and the suffering. Don't label my trauma and negate me. Take the T word out. That's a obfuscation of potential, of the roots that go to hell, so my tree can go all the way to heaven. I want my bow to be pulled all the way back. I also want to know where I'm aiming at. The guide helps that. Belu and Bajera and Aristotle and that people, and I think you're like this too. That's my role in the world, is to be the guide. And because you have to have an aim. And there's a lot of learning that comes with having the aim, knowing where to aim. It's a content conversation. It's a experience conversation, which comes down to sacrifice, like time invested, mastery. You mentioned Robert Greene earlier. He wrote a book called Mastery. One of his, I would say, his better books. Although they all be useful. Even it's Abraham Lincoln. I learn from everyone I meet. Usually, it's what not to do. Because the 40 Laws of Power, it's like a dark book.
It's so dark they banned it from prisons because it was empowering prisoners. And that can go multiple ways, right? If they reform, then it's good. If they're not, then they're going to come back from school, more or less, more hardened criminals. So there's no means test to say, hey, please be good when you take these dark persuasion tactics, right? And you see that a lot in business, right? I mean, you're a big student of, Benjamin Graham's star student, Warren Buffett, right? And you've gone to the annual meetings. Like, what have you learned from people who've been in leadership for 5, 6, 7 decades that is applicable to leaders today?
And we don't just go to the meeting every year. People don't know Omaha, Nebraska every year. The Berkshire, anyone can go if they buy a share or they get a guest pass. I welcome anyone to go. I'm not I don't get to pick who's going or something, but I'd say go. If you haven't gone, anyone that's listening to this, go to Omaha and you'll meet friends everywhere you go that believe or desire to believe in a way of doing business, in a way of investing. This Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholder meeting. We had one of the board members. There's 7 on the Culture Matters podcast. I believe it's episode 852, 860. Man, that's going to kill me. It's on the tip of my tongue. It might be 852. This is going to be, I want to look it up because I've said it wrong like 7 times, 3 times. Christopher Davis, the Culture Matters podcast. Maybe it's 860. Davis. Oh, wow. Totally off. It's 796. See, that's why you got to look. Fact check me. So one of 7 board members, his grandfather, yes, his father, they're all investors. They were all investors, on their own, essentially. The grandfather started, he was in that Buffett era. The father, Shelby, did his own thing. And then the grandson, who's in his 60s today, he was on the show, episode 796. He runs his own fund company. And so we go over here to the Berkshire Hathaway, now there's like a cadre of us that believe in this, and it blossoms out. And that's okay. What does one learn? I was just talking and thinking about this today because we did a show on the Value Investor series. It's not just the mental models. It's not just the frameworks. It's not just the tacit knowledge. It's not just all the books and this idea that price, like, value is what you get, price is what you pay. And it's not just like all the formulas, but it's the philosophy. Epictetus says, don't teach me your philosophy, embody it. So going back earlier to our conversation, you mentioned that I have recently gathered some people together that I've collected over the years, people I consider friends, people I consider, that I put a lot of consideration into putting in the same room and saying they should know one another. That's me embodying the philosophy that I spend a lot of time reading and writing and speaking and thinking about. I'm embodying it by getting people together. There's a philosophical aspect to the Berkshire Hathaway as a business model, as a business example, as a case study, looking at Christopher, for example, episode 796, and his father and grandfather's stories, their history, their legacy. They are examples of the story, how they've lived their lives, how they've gone to work, how long they've worked. So that it's not just the mental models, the tacit knowledge, the book knowledge, the concepts, the frameworks. It's how they live their life, and it's how long have they been doing what they're doing. I don't have the whole, I've been thinking about this a lot. What are the aspects of the value investor? But I don't know. But those three might be some of it. It's not just the being aware of and conceptualizing and acting out the frameworks, the mental models that the Benjamin Grahams and the Charlie Mungers and these gifted teachers have expressed, the Buffetts, but it's this way of living and the timelines associated. It's a way of living. It's a philosophy of doing business, of doing investing, that the value invested. That's what you learn when you immerse yourself, when you put yourself in that environment, and we each of us are in different environments. And I guess going back to perception and action, how does where our feet are and where our bodies are reflect of our values, what we value, and how congruent our perceptions and our perceptions of who we are versus who we actually are, right? Like, I go to the Gentlemen's Club every Thursday and every Sunday. I'm there experimenting. That's the kind of gentleman I am. Am I a gentleman? I have man and gentili. Gentili, I don't even.
It's funny that I'm just speculating because it's been years since I've walked into one of those places. I would think that business is down. I would think that people don't socialize as often, right? Rites of passage, such as going to a strip club, it's not highbrow, it's lowbrow. Right? I'd rather have a nice steak dinner and a great bottle of wine with friends, right? That to me is more entertaining. And when you curate a room, you're expanding our knowledge and potential energy, right? Like, and how we can kind of put these formulas together. Because if you have, let's say, someone who I may not have seen for a dozen years, and then you pick it up like you never left it off, you're like, these are cool people. It's nice to see them again, right? So you don't miss a beat, even though there's been a few pages that have passed since you've last seen somebody. So, I mean, there's a lot of gratitude in that, in a time when, we're not as mindful as we could be. That you remind us to be more deliberate and intentional about how we conduct ourselves, like to a true self-introspection. In your research with Dr. Peterson and your actions, where do you feel that most people are getting it wrong and what they can do better to improve their state?
How we relate to conflict reveals us. I think these at least in concept, you think about these historical figures of varying faiths, how they roam the world. So firstly, I'm assuming, if my assumption is that when they came across, a person, when they came in contact, when many of these like Buddhas or came in contact with another soul, my assumption would be that how they related to them was unique and distinct and reflective of the philosophy that are riddled throughout the literature about them, or that they wrote generally about them. Right? There's literature written by other parties about this figure or what they represented. The question becomes, is suffering and the exercising of it, does that become more and more and more capable of being burdened by an individual the more one burdens and exercises it? I know I've been thinking about that for a long time. Does the practice or the sustained pursuit of exorcising demons bring more energy to the exorcist, or does it have the opposite effect where it feeds on their soul, it feeds on their lifeblood? I don't know, actually. I'm still studying this. I'm not giving Peterson the credit on that. I'm saying I'm actually going in a different direction. That him and many of his influences and others, dozens of other thinkers have been who I've been having this conversation with for, I don't know, a while with myself. How much pain and suffering can one person handle? Somebody with a knife that was running towards Mother Teresa, would they drop it if she looked at him? I don't know. I think about that. Because all of the good deeds, if she's who, assume she would, the degree of, is there really a distinction between power and love? And if there is, could love pierce through the false identity of the knife wielder in motion? That's not a lion, but has taken the form, the animation of the lion. Now, let's say that 2% of the population. Let's appease the statisticians. 2% of the population. It's a lion. You're not stopping the lion. Mother Teresa's dead, and that's Christ, right? Represents the worst possible thing to the most innocent person. That's a great example for love loses in this world, it wins in the next. Okay, great. But what about the 98% of flesh and blood that they're not a lion, but they were assuming the animation of the lion in spirit for whatever reason? Something happened to them, a demon possessed them. How many of the people that they loved and cared about had to die with no cause for them to assume the animation of the lion, of the animal? If they were running at Mother Teresa, if they were running at Gandhi, if they were running at modern day messianic figure who is the embodiment of the human spirit's potential to be open and love and forgive and redemptive and renew, would they drop the knife?
I mean, there's a...
Yes. Here's just the end of that. Sure. Long answer. I would say that even if it's not explicit in Maps of Meaning, some of the undertone is like some of these thinkers is, I was internal. The more conflict one can burden and work through, the more will be given. And it's the next level of burdening and working through. And the purer the soul, the purer the spirit, the more will be given and the more will be burdened and worked through. And so the question becomes, what is that person, that pure, that person in that state capable of reconciling? How many contradictions? How many mental knots? I don't know, but that's something that drives me curiously to want to think about. I don't think that may not be the most helpful answer to that wonderful, thoughtful question. I mean, I guess I could have said, have a goal, and write down your goal, and make sure you keep your commitment to yourself and others, because without a goal, you'll be less likely to have hope. The anxiety won't turn into hope, but you're going to have despair because things aren't going to go your way. And if you don't know where you're going, how are you supposed to train and prepare and practice and develop skills so that you can face the unknown in an exciting state of failing but feeling like you're winning? The pursuit of happiness, which is really about meaning and things mattering and becoming part of the society, aligning the circle of relationships, the mentors, the mentees, the spouse, the family, the friends, the enemies, all of that. Like in a Petersonian sense or a Jungian sense, we should probably integrate our shadow, get educated to our level of ability, have friends and hobbies, and get educated and get a job and clean your room and do all those things that I agree with.
I feel that when you combine all that together, you get into episode 684 and living a life of significance.
Is that from 30 Days of Thought?
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of like, what we do and how it kind of, I guess I always try to look at it like we have that one unifying force that connects us, right? That if we are believers in one God, regardless of, who's delivering it, everything and everyone is everywhere. And so it's up to us to tune in, clear our signal, and filter out the noise.
For the business owners that are listening to this, ego can start a business and is maybe a necessary quality to do it. Once you have it, where you have customers and employees, and you've actually hit all of your goals, and now you don't know what to do with yourself because you have everything you thought you needed, and even what you weren't even thinking that you weren't even, it wasn't even a thought. It was more of an inertia. The motivation to go and to continue to sacrifice will be far beyond yourself. It'll outstretch even beyond your kin, your children, those you're accountable to. And if it comes from some type of higher purpose, in theory, that would be more meaningful. And maybe it shouldn't have to be a theory. It could be like almost like an obvious fact that there's like a never-ending accountability, responsibility, feedback loop. Like, how do you have responsibility without accountability? I don't think you can. So that becomes that theological conversation. It's like without, but I thought maybe for the business people that are listening, what keeps us going will change or must change as the context changes from the structure.
So you look at things as an evolving why?
Yeah, it's the founding of a business is like the why is implicit. It's not articulated in words. It isn't written down. It's reflected in how the founder relates to the customers, the originating customers. How it's like inside, and I actually think it's dark. I think it's a dark impulse. I think and I'm not making a value judgment on it. If that's a shit. I mean, you were there when Brian asked Peterson, "Why did you start the university?" He was honest enough to say what we all knew. Revenge. That is a necessary and likely inevitable beginning, even if it's not conceptually available or volitionally willable to admit. Like revenge. To Peterson's detriment, he's debilitatingly self-aware. So that I'm sure he had to work through that for weeks.
When you share,
revenge, resentment, rage, shame, pride, guilt, all the low, the low. I'm doing the air quotes because there's many philosophies, or I'll call them ideologies, prescriptions to go against. You don't want shame. You don't want guilt. You don't want no. You don't get to choose. They're there. They're active, and they're participating, and we can discern on a spectrum probably. But they're these are moving. These are forces within us and through us, and they're moving us into action. Now it's almost like magic. You don't want to tell the entrepreneur. They're the rat and the wheel and the cheese. The bankers need their money to keep moving. I'm an investor. I don't want to tell them that, oh my God, I don't want you to have work-life balance. One day a week is enough. Don't go on a vacation too often. We need the cheese.
Well, when you're on that hamster wheel, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, like 7 days a week, and I used to feel the exact same way. And then you're like,
I just want a little time. We want them to get a little time off so they can get back on the wheel, Demetri. No, we don't want them to get off the wheel.
No, right.
We want them to think they're off the wheel and stay on the wheel.
Well, I think that's a construct of the Industrial Revolution education system that wants you to be on some hamster wheel. But what I wanted to ask you, and that's where I wanted to get into this whole idea of the Ubermensch and being our best self, our highest super intelligent self. Most jobs, they say, by 2 years will kind of become obsolete, and maybe many of them are already kind of redundant to begin with. I would feel like I wanted to ask for your perspective on what Simon Sinek has said in a recent interview with Simon Squibb, that by the human component will create a lot of employment. When automation simplifies things and it makes your processes easier, people are going to need a little more love. They're going to need a little more customer service, kindness, empathy. Do you feel like these are values that will hold weight and drive value?
Well, when it comes to predictions, first I want to make sure I make it very clear to the audience that I predicted 12 of the last 3 recessions.
Cheers. And you're still in business. That's wonderful.
I've been right every time. All my predictions. I've been right. I predicted 12 of the last 3. So I'm 3 for 3. And I don't count the 9. I was wrong. So there's that when it comes to predictions. Anecdotally, I believe I have been working on integrating my AI model knowledge base, which is ever growing and building and developing and complementing the insatiable some of the core values of our company: preparation, prepared before this, at the best of my awareness, and time management, urgency. I move quickly, like I'm on it now, asking questions about the Übermensch and internal recurrence, and then my mind wanders and I have thoughts here and there. Curiosity, the ability to have the world's information pulling as quickly as possible. So like I might have a thought about a wave, like we did on 30 Days of Thought and Friends, which is generally every Sunday. A couple of the readers come together, generally Paul Aceto and Andrew Berman, and we do 30 Days of Thought. We did I Quit Every Day I'm the Entrepreneur, page 43 yesterday, and I had a thought about a wave, and I didn't know enough about waves and the terminology, but I had this feeling that business is like a wave. You don't work in it or on it. It's fluid and in motion, and it's relating and relative, and it's interacting essentially. I was like, metaphor, wave, and so now I'm interacting with my knowledge base, which knows about 30 Days of Thought and knows about our meetings and understands me. And I'm asking questions about waves and how that relates to business. And now I'm able to be even more of who I am and can be because of the speed and the compression of time and space through this technology. And I am obsessed with it. Now, from a capital standpoint, I believe we'll be able to make more money than which I'm a very big fan of money, so I shouldn't laugh. I mean, money compressed time and space. Books are expensive. It's all relative, right? Expensive, but so you can get more done in less time and put out faster and have a higher quality relative to how you relate to these things. Oh my God, I am a pig in mud when it comes to very, very simple how I think I'm using them. From like preparation, I said preparation, urgency, curiosity, consistency is another core value. The compounding of all the data and how it's building up, and then coming back like a whatever this looks like, and focus. That's another one of our core values. So I wish I got involved on these technologies sooner and integrated them into my ability to prepare and to think and to write and to research and to analyze and to provide analyses. I believe it's helping bring more of my abilities, innate abilities, and refined skills to the surface. And in consultant speak, the capabilities that I've developed from doing hundreds and hundreds of interviews and preparing for them are I think they're getting an exponential lift from the leverage of the technology. And there's some research that shows that those that study philosophy are by and large clearer thinkers, or let's say more thoughtful, or think more broadly than those that don't and haven't. So, maybe there's something to that. These technologies and having that philosophical interest and skill development, right, is time invested. That's how I interpret your question around. I have no idea. Like I said, I predicted 12 of the last 3 recessions, so I'm not sure what the future brings. But I'm more on the exciting opportunity. I mean, what else can I do other than show up, be ready to die, give it all, go at it with love and some hatred. Hatred could get you pretty far too. Not apathy, hatred. Yeah. So that's how I. That's one way of answering that. I don't know. What did Simon say?
Well,
what did Simon say?
Simon says.
I'd like to talk to him.
Simon's. You have or you aspire to?
No, I'd like to talk to him. What did Simon say?
Simon says that basically the human element is what's going to balance the scale. So meaning like, we ended the Industrial Revolution, went to service, and then services can be done anywhere across the world. So it doesn't matter, the geography is fungible. It's that you communicate. But that human element is missing. So if we say, okay, we can data mine everything and make everything look perfect, and now in the hands of a thinker, of a philosopher, these tools will enhance and build more to our arsenal of how we can serve people. But to others, they're delegating their thought, their independence to the machine, to the hive mind, and they're just defaulting to that, copying and pasting. So if you don't integrate that into the work you do and say, okay, here's a great outline, here's some great thoughts that I needed to be reminded of. Simon is saying that, that's needed, that people need connection. Like the events that you host, right, on any level, brings people together so that our candles don't just blow out at the first gust of wind. But in fact, you build these fortresses, right, around people and say, you know what, here's some resources. It's up to you to kind of speak up and ask for help. I mean, I'm in a business where people don't ask for help, right? They're going to suffer. They're going to have a stack of late notices, foreclosure notices and bills, and they're going to say, I'm fine, when they're not fine. So I have to kind of battle that in my own way.
I'm fine too. I'm freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's just someone told me that once.
It's okay to be a little neurotic. I feel like having divergent thinking, like people like us, it's a superpower. I think it used to be a constraint because we wouldn't typically fit into many crowds. Then you find your crowds. You build your crowds. You build your communities, right? You build movements, right? Like, I think in order to overcome ourselves, I would challenge a lot of people to go through the full 30 days of thought if you want to survive and thrive in the future. Because you got to define your values. You got to get over what's been holding you back and lead with truth and authenticity. I welcome any additions that you feel that, at a time like this, that people can take your book along with AI and kind of integrate into their best selves.
I think I am, as ideas come into my mind, I'm asking if I created a profile and it has, now as this technology has evolved and become more integrated into search, I've had to feed less information into it for it to kind of get up to speed with things. Pretty unbelievable. Asking questions, I've become better question asker as I've continued to read, interview people, look at people, pay attention, be present, lean in. Interviewing helped me quiet my mind, slow down. Asking questions, and even that, the questions that we ask have a relationship with the content that we have built up. So that there's pouring. If you pour water in your cup, you pour it out. You're pouring in, pouring it out, pouring it in, pouring it out. Now, in the metaphor, like the pouring it out, when do you ask and when do you share? When do you ask and when do you share? To discern the difference takes. Ooh. How do we discern when to ask and when to share? And right, the context dictates that. I mean, you invited me to your house, and I'm performing at liberty within the context implicit in, all right, you're the host, I'm the guest. It's implied that the host is gonna listen more and the guests share more because there's host guests. It's like,
I'm happy.
If I invite you to my house, I'm going to listen more and share. I mean, it's now that can change, it can morph relative to the relationship and the overall conversation and the content and the people's presence. If I was even more self-absorbed and narcissistic, and not present and performing this, the same story in every podcast, the same things that I'm going to say, and I don't even know that I'm saying them, I definitely wouldn't want you to participate in the show other than to just be there, smiling, ask one question, I'll talk for 2 hours. And it's going to be the same thing I said in the last one, and the last one, and the last one.
I believe there is differentiation in how you talk from show to show, and I feel like there are some nuances that people can pick up. I mean, there's certain people without naming them, like you're like, oh, if you have that person on the show, they're going to more or less talk like this. But again, that's where crafting that beautiful question, and whoever asks that right question can control the world, because you're steering the ship where you want it to go, and it takes time.
But our relationship with the questions, our capacity and willingness and intention and attention to ask has a relationship with the AI, with the technologies, is what the point I was making. And that, who knows the limits that I don't know. Sorry to interrupt.
Point. I think I forget there's a Stanford PhD computer science person who just kind of evolved how I even run my searches, because it says, walk me through your thought process when you give me this answer. I want you to build a contextual map of how you got to these conclusions, right? So it's not just spitting a standard answer. And then speak it from our core values. Speak it from the values of our entity, our company, or what you stand for.
Something I do because of my education and my experience, I'm giving analyses to it like I would. I've written many books for our customers. That's a part of a deliverable. A company may hire me to come in and do a culture puzzle on the company, where I discover the company's story, the company's core values, the company's belief, purpose, goal, vision, mission. I can architect the company's, all the elements that influence the populace of the clients and the employees, and help direct the human behavior around management, the rituals, the symbolism. I'll go in the organization and actually study the organization, interview people, spend time with the leadership, spend time with the operating, whoever's at the highest echelon of power and influence, of control, essentially, authority, right? And develop this book from scratch. This is long before artificial technologies to speed these things up. I was practicing that craft to try to get to the answer, the truth, which is a never-ending, it's an onion peeling, right? You mentioned in the beginning. So that repetition, thousands of hours, I think how I'm experiencing the technology is that of someone that's a trained analyst. Now, that's not special to me in the sense of like one, but can that be learned by our listeners? I believe so. Is that learned in different institutions? Yes. Whether formal, experiential, in business and life. But that's been my experience, where I'm having having an educated conversation with the world at the same time, asking and sharing. It's unbelievable and refreshing. With that, it's like, okay, let's tweak this here and let's have this here. Overall, I'm unbelievably impressed with what I get back. And 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, it wasn't nearly as profound. It's evolved. I think 2 years. It's evolved. It's unbelievable.
So you feel like you're continuing to chisel the David that doesn't quite exist yet.
That's what most excites me about work. I actually just asked my knowledge base to share excerpt 125. I wanted to read it from the Joyful Wisdom. And it said I can't share the copyrighted text. I wanted to read it and share it. And then it's like, oh man, I might have to do old school, just walk over to the bedroom real quick and grab the Joyful Wisdom to read this. But I'll save it for next time.
Well, I remember that David was miserable in King Saul's court, just playing music for the king, right? And you're in a comfortable place, but he felt like a slave. But out in the fields, the youngest boy who wasn't expected to be a leader he had inner peace. That's what gave him strength. And while he's out there, he was throwing rocks around, and that's how he was able to face Goliath. And I have to remember, and I'm learning more and more the more I read about different Bible stories, that he was anointed. Like, he's blessed. Like, a lot of times we're blessed by having these mentors, by applying that knowledge, by taking decades of wisdom and saying, thank you. Wow, you just saved me a year's trouble, or you just saved me a bunch of money. Again, as an advisor, right? If you come in and I don't have any ego except please help me wherever I need it and point out all my blind spots that I'm not seeing, like when you get to walk in step with someone and your reports are actually recognized and taken to true action, how does that feel? That you're that change agent that transformed a culture, a company, or even an individual.
I haven't been grateful enough to accept it. I'm still running too fast to see my reflection.
Is it out of
The
fear?
mirror is foggy.
Is it out of fear, or is it just a relentless pursuit of winning?
I think if I could answer it, I'd be better, but I have hope. I just don't believe that comes in waves. Like last week was pretty, I was happy. I would say I think I was happy. I'm not happy often.
So you were all smiles the whole night.
I was happy. I was happy. Yeah. No, I'll rewatch this. It'll be good for me. Great, helpful question.
You're delivering a happy meal experience, more or less, right? And you could have hosted it anywhere, but sometimes it's the setting too. You know, that's not the best steakhouse in the whole world, but for Philly, that's a central location. And, you know, people are very familiar how to find it. You're not going to get lost.
Hey, the Capitol Grill, the porcini rub has done great, has helped mature my palate. And, yeah, I can thank Jenna for that. You know, before her, I was eating Dunkin' Donuts, you know, whatever sandwiches, so thank you for the palate.
Well,
but the bone-in ribeye with the porcini rub, I mean, it's not changing the world, but it, quite frankly, life was simpler before the porcini rub. Capital could be allocated in better places.
Yeah.
So now I'm guilting myself. Self-deprecating. I was happy and filled with. I don't think I've taken enough time to think. Well, I have been writing thank you notes to everyone, and that has been a spiritual act. Actually, right here I just saw this like 3 minutes ago. It's like these are 3 letters that got returned to me. My friend Brad, my friend Wade, and my friend Demetri. It got returned to sender. This is from like 2 months ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I got to send this back to you. And it didn't get there. And yeah, isn't that funny?
It's funny, but it
happens all the time.
We'll be back in
return to sender.
Back in town 2 weeks. You can hand deliver.
Just hand deliver the letter.
But I think
I could just read it.
Oh.
Right, it's alive on the show. I don't know. It might be too personal. Yeah. Send me that check.
You got it. Send me an invoice. I almost want to hire you. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you've transformed companies and created movements, you're like, because a lot of times we feel like we're good and set with our core values, but they have to be in motion. Your brand and your marketing have to kind of blend in a symphony, right? You mentioned earlier about, right? I think in a text yesterday something about music. Right, and we can all toot our horns really nicely and loud, and we can have a solo act that's just amazing. But the moment you add a little drum beat, a little backing sound, a little support, even if it's not great, wow, right? And that's how music works. And you know, I'm gonna bring in that whole the Strauss thing. But as soon as that's gonna be the opener. When I watch the episode, I'm gonna bring it on with the whole.
Why do I love it so much?
I mean, it's 2001 Odyssey. It's the Ric Flair theme song. I mean, obviously Strauss started it, but mind you, when I think Strauss, I think the Blue Danube. I think the Wall. I think these soft songs, and then he's just like boom. I'm like, wait, hey, he's got the power. You just don't see him that way.
Do you know that's wow, that's deep. That's actually I found that because I was looking up. One of my favorite books of all time is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. When I read the beginning, I cry every time, or at least I last time I read it. It's an overwhelming book, and I've never finished the whole thing, which is tragic and beautiful at the same time, because I have my whole life to read it. But that's about Zarathustra, the professor that came from the mountains that Nietzsche is using as a medium to express some of his ideas, like Uber mentioned, eternal reoccurrence and all that stuff. I love that song though. It's so overwhelming. Music is. I wish. Yeah. I don't need to wish and live in and suffer in the absence of doing something and just beat myself. I'll catch that, put it in my pocket. I'd like to listen to more music. I'm going to listen to more music because I have a connection to music, and I liked your sentiment about harmony.
No, it's all about, as a high school kid, when everybody would listen to this band or that, I only listened to classical music. I was at my most focused, my most still. The Four Seasons involved Vivaldi. Mozart is a boy genius who performed fast, performed slow with all instruments. And the same thing with Beethoven. Imagine losing your sense of hearing, but you're even more plugged into the music. Because it's all about the feeling. And he felt that music, and he pushed it forward.
What's your mission now?
My mission is to bring relief to the world. So obviously, as I try to get myself out of encumbrances and challenges and letting things go that don't serve anymore, it puts me in a place of strong relatability that I've suffered in ways that most people have never could imagine that they could even handle the suffering. But then when you answer the call, when you reach out to the right person, you find that common link, that golden thread that links us together. So I'm not above someone, I'm on the same level. Where relief goes, we go into movements. Relief cares, charities to build housing for people. Relief comedy because there's not enough independent comedy anymore. So all these things would kind of weave back together, and the podcast just became kind of my gift to the world and a way to get to know me. Right? Like, yeah, we're complicated characters, and so you might have to watch like 20 episodes to start understanding at least a sliver of who we are. But then when they see you anywhere or an event, oh, I love that one episode. And then again, I need to start getting better at episode numbers. So I can say, because this is a library of evergreen content that continues forever. I mean, you have videos from 8 years ago. It's a different you. Your hair was different and all, but your message was true. It's sharp. It might have been short and direct and to the point, but now you're able to kind of pontificate with purpose, which I think I admire in you. And it's you. It's you and Dr. Peterson. But I feel like you're kind of taking his best and making it better. Because there's always the next generation that stands on the shoulders of giants. Well, they can't carry an entire movement by themselves. You strive forward in a tribe, a team, and you enable others to build their tribes and teams so that they're not suffering alone. Because that really sucks. So, I mean, I embrace that in the journey, and that you can go toe to toe with anyone. Like, I don't know, did you play Nintendo growing up by chance? Or was that, I'm too old.
A little.
Okay. Well, maybe you're familiar with the game Mike Tyson's Punch Out or Super Punch Out or any of that.
Wasn't James Bond on Nintendo too?
He was.
Or am I thinking
GoldenEye. You're thinking GoldenEye.
That was
that was the college game of choice. Even if you weren't friends with people, you're like, oh, you're playing Bond. There's 4 windows, and you go pick up a controller and play, and it was all good. So there was some equality there.
It was a different time.
It was. Again, when I think game, I'm like, this is not a productive use of my time. I'd rather not do it. But I started coloring again. That's cool. You know how they say, like, you slow down and you fill in the spaces and the numbers, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then, I feel like these types of exercise not just keep us in our creative, but help calm our nervous systems. Because we absorb a lot of people's energies. You're in a lot of environments that are good, toxic, and in some form of change. And that flux, the energy come back on you, and you can ignore it, you can wash it off, or you can process it. I feel like by processing it, you're obviously healthier long term, and you're able to continue doing it. Because when I worked at Deloitte, there were a lot of people who've been there for years, but they looked worn out. They didn't look battle-tested and sharper than ever. They looked like, caged calves ready for slaughter.
Well, travel can do that to you. Taking on other people's responsibilities, right? Problems can do that to you. We don't know their regimens, but I've been there. I think I was even there last year. I was burnt out. Now, I have a deep disdain for that word. And then there's real health problems. That's another, health. It's like health is.
Well, we run you vital, and like I said, you're always welcome. We have a family home on the island of Chios, and you can sit on the same rock where Homer spoke to the crowd, and that rock's still there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Thousands of years later, a blind poet, he knew these stories inside and out without words, just kind of from memory. And sharing the stories made him articulate it more clearly. So that's how you're able to kind of continue your craft and build these incremental improvements that, a casual observer says, how does he do that? But you're like, well, tune into episode 1, then episode 100, and then you'll see the progression of your communications. And the same thing happened with me. The first few episodes, I'm like, I don't even know how to get a sentence together. Now you're like, boom, it doesn't matter who's going to be the guest. I know how to talk. I can work in that room. Like, again, going back to this Kid Dynamite character, right, in this simple Nintendo game from the 80s. I related to him so much. He's facing all kinds of characters. The first guy's got a glass jaw. He knocks him out in like 2 punches. Then as you progress, there's different characters, and they come from all over the world. Then you face Mike Tyson. 1 punch and you're out. So you got to keep dancing. Right? You can't sit there and say, that opponent is bigger than me. That competitor is 10 times my size. There have been plenty of large companies like Sears that thought they were going to be a permanent part of the landscape. That name is not even on the building. It's called the Willits Tower. They're a faded memory. They could have been Amazon, but they had ego. And then you've seen other companies. Even the name Berkshire Hathaway was a mature garment manufacturer, right? And he milked that cash cow until it kind of croaked. But that fed the success of his other businesses and ventures.
Yeah, I want to. I have a desire to study more of the like some of the Hegelians or like Hegel and like these thinkers, these promoters of I guess the necessity of opposites. There's a chapter in this McGilchrist book I booked up earlier. It's chapter 20 or 21. The coincidentia oppositorum, the necessity of opposites. Like, God bless the ego and their dogma and their rigidity or whatever narratives and rationalizations that we're holding together, whatever that construct was, that in the absence of that holding together and that rigidity and that pride, David is made by Goliath. There's no one, my enemy is closer to me in spirit and in personhood than my friend, who's but a mirror of what we both adore in a moment in time. So I don't know, I'd like to study. Maybe I'll go read Hegel before I go to bed as a I don't have it next to there's too many books next to the bed. They just like pile up. It's crazy. I wish I could I would if Jenna was in there, bring it and show you the books all. I have all Peterson's wish list because he has them on the website. All because we need another bookshelf in the bedroom. They're like all on the floor next to my side of the bed. And then there's a whole pile.
Oh yeah.
Like of Alan Weiss's. I like, keep your advisors close. Keep your enemies closer. Right next to the bed. But Hegel's there. Kant's there. I think it's like the phenomenology of spirit. But that comes to mind with what you're saying is that, maybe we're not, I don't know.
I mean, think of the two
we need the contrast.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the shadow, right? That's the contrast in a way. But it's still part of who we are. It's the stuff that we don't want to face. But when we do kind of face it and say, all right, you are a part of me. I mean, I met Tim Grover once, and I told him how I've gone through some dark spells of depression and sadness. And I'm like, oh, how do I kind of cast that aside and kind of go win? He's like, nah, man. He's like, you take that with you. That's part of who you are. You just walk forward bravely, and that's part of your story. As opposed to shedding, it's like trying to cut off your arm. You're like, you still need your arm, even if it got injured. You rehabilitate it and get better. So when you handle hardships with a smile, then you are Alexander. Right, then you are that hero figure, and if you do listen to your mentors and follow virtues as opposed to vices, you may go farther. And maybe part of the reason we remember him wasn't because of his rise, was because he left so much potential on the table. And we're always kind of curious where it could have gone if there was a strong legacy, if there was some, a succession plan in place, as opposed to generals who were fighting each other for crumbs, as opposed to, hey, let's expand this field and like own the world, so that maybe Islam doesn't rise, maybe the Hellenic culture goes worldwide. Like you don't know, and it's kind of dripping here and there and everywhere, right? We see it all over the place.
We didn't get to go into this on this rendition or this version, whatever volume this will be. But I was mentioned earlier about, I don't know what to call it, but I'm not attached. My philosophy of the whole, technology and how we as humans will relate to it in our culture. I'm excited about whatever's next. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited so long as the people who are pulling the AI strings have some level of a social uplifting component to the work they do. Like if we still have dirty water in 5 years, we failed as a civilization. If food still costs like a higher percentage of our income, I see it the same way. Meaning, like, again, we can't promise fulfillment, but, what's the point of making billions and billions of dollars if there's such a inverted society where we become a caste system, where you could almost not exceed a certain level of growth if you don't have that little bit of seed capital to catapult yourself to that next level. Again, this is just the humble mind of a kid of an immigrant who put himself through school and trade school and had to open his own doors or find a window or crawl through the basement. I don't know, whatever, however I get in, right? I mean, the other day when my car wasn't for service, I had to crawl in through the passenger door. I didn't complain. I just did it and drove off.
I love that.
And so I want to think maybe some food for thought for another time. I don't think we can reframe the idea of burning out as hitting a red line, right? Knowing that we can, or an engine can overheat, right? And maybe you let it overheat a little bit, but not on a prolonged basis. Then you do that introspection. Hey, what's causing me to kind of feel run down? What's causing me to feel feelings I don't typically want to feel? And then by regulating ourselves a bit, then we're not burning it. Because I've hit the burnout, and then you're like, now there's periods of inactivity. You have to go into seclusion. For me, a couple of occasions I spent a week in monasteries, no phone, just telling the key people in my life, I'm not going to be here. Sorry, I'm over there. I'm in a safe place, and I'm closer to God. So that mindset monks would use in Mount Athos. They would call them isichasti, which isichia means to be silent. They would measure their words. They wouldn't just run on unless they knew it was going somewhere. And even if people came to them for guidance, they had this gift of clairvoyance, like being able to know what's wrong with somebody before they even communicate. So I feel like you're that have that gift as well, to kind of know people's problems before they even start sharing them with.
Thanks.
No,
I don't know if that's something to think. I don't know if I'm ready to accept it.
Why struggle more than you have to?
I will leave you with this quote that I identify with myself, which is at the beginning of Maps of Meaning. I'm very proud about this. I think my signed copy's here, actually. Oh my. Where's my signed copy? Where the hell did I put that? Because Jordan signed one of them. I have a couple of them. Where is it? I'm gonna freak out and try to find it.
Find it. If not, he'll give you another one.
No, it's got to be in the house somewhere. It should be right here. I was just gonna show you this. Oh, there it. Oh, wow.
It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you.
That should be the quote, right?
Whatever you're looking for is right in front of you.
Yeah, great to see a well-worn book. I thought that was really special.
Yes.
But the quote, I love this book so much. He puts so much effort into this book. 15 years of work. It gives me hope because I moved out 16 years ago. I was thinking about that today. When I say moved out, my home. But in the beginning of the book, in the preface, says the general fact that a problem has gripped and assimilated the whole of a person is a guarantee that the speaker has really experienced it and perhaps gained something from their suffering. He will then reflect the problem in his personal life and thereby show us the truth. Carl Jung. And I've shared that with you before recently. Culture matters.
It absolutely does. So in closing, how can people find you online, find your work, and connect with you?
Please, I was about to say subscribe to the Culture Matters podcast, and I thought,
do it.
How overbearing is that? Who wants to just subscribe? I mean, you haven't even listened to it.
I'll vouch for you.
Yeah.
I'll vouch for you. You don't have to. You don't have to toot your own.
Yeah, it seemed like, I don't want to subscribe to everything,
No.
No,
You want to be
subscribe to
selective.
100 different things.
You want to be
Yeah.
selective. I mean, one thing that's great about you is that how you mentioned that you got to over 1,000 episodes with 167. That means
It's a small number.
Yeah, that means you're level 1, level 2, and then I really love that you honor guests who are no longer with us, right? You raised the toast to John Schwartz, and then also giving attention to go check out his episodes, right? So there's some depth there, and I feel like that's the reason why we do these things, is so like let's bring our best forward, because tomorrow's not promised. And we can leave nice impacts for everyone to smile at in the future.
That's one of the driving forces to do the show. I've always felt like I was here to say something. I may have already said it, and that was my life's purpose. But all these conversations are recorded, and they're living. They're a living monument to the people that have participated in the Culture Matters podcast. So if anyone has interest in participating in the lives of unique, thoughtful, engaged, kind-hearted people that have different gifts, the Culture Matters podcast is a source of that, a source of light and inspiration, example. And so subscribe to that. If you like to read and write, and maybe are not adept or used to sharing your thoughts online or speaking in a public forum, 30 days of thought can really be a helpful tool to do so. If you like to do all those things, it may be a very helpful reflective tool for the speaker that wants to be less a caricature and more of a leader in action. And there's value there, and it has been for me and others that were accomplished in the art of speaking and inept in the art of listening. And if you want to get to know me better, you can send me a message on Instagram, @Doran_the_culture_man, and maybe there's business to be had together. Maybe a listener is interested in having another pair of eyes on their company, their culture, their business, has a vision, or at least an urge to want to create something meaningful and successful in both economic and social and relational metrics. Because we do all those things. We're very successful in the capacity of business advisory consulting. I'm very proud of that. So that's how people can connect with me. I think that would be a great start. And go to the Culture Matters podcast and type in your host name on the show, Demetri, Stakias, and you'll see episodes with your host on the show. At least twice.
Yeah, I was on a group,
as of tomorrow.
I was on a group show too, and I'm like, they're like, come join the group show Saturday 10:30. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I'm like, but it's gonna be a nice conversation. I'm like, yes, it will, and it was.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show, and I want to congratulate you for the record longest episode. We just crossed 2 hours. This is my first 2-hour plus podcast. Thank you.
Oh, that's freaking awesome. I love it. We'll have to break 3 hours next time, and you know what? We could do live and invite other people, and before you know it, that'll be 7 hours.
Well, thank you.
Like epic history.
Thank you for cultivating greatness, not just in me, but in many, many others. You are a continued inspiration to so many, and continue doing the great work that you do every day.
Thank you, my friend. It's been an honor to be on your show, and I'll see you in the morning.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jay. Dude, that was awesome.